Every extraction shooter relies on one core mechanic: risk. You gear up for a raid knowing that you could lose everything. It's because of this that many players hesitate to bring in their best gear. But the real question is, why is that fear so powerful? Why can digital loot trigger real anxiety, real hesitation, and real fear? Today, I'm unpacking 5 psychological principles happening inside your brain when you hesitate to take in your best gear. Then we'll cover science-backed strategies you can use to beat gear fear and actually enjoy using the gear you've earned. Gear fear: the hesitation to use valuable gear due to the anxiety of losing it. It's built on powerful psychological principles that are a survival instinct misfiring in a digital environment. The first is loss aversion. In 1979, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky ran a series of experiments that changed how we understand human decision-making. They found that people feel the pain of loss about twice as strongly as they feel the pleasure of gain. They called this loss aversion. Compare finding a $10 bill on the ground versus losing a $10 bill. The disappointment of the loss would far outweigh the joy of the gain. This is the same reason why people rarely switch careers, even when they hate their job. The potential loss far outweighs the potential gain in their minds. In ExfilZone, you might extract with 500k in loot, and it feels good. But if you lose that same amount of gear, you'd feel frustrated, anxious, and maybe even angry for a couple hours. Your brain's emotional response is lopsided by design. We're evolved to prioritize survival, not risk-taking, and avoiding loss, even imaginary loss, triggers the same neural regions as physical pain. This leads you to not take in your best gear or ammo in an attempt to avoid the pain, even though rationally you know these choices can limit your improvement. The sunk cost fallacy. It's a mental trap that turns past effort into emotional debt. In classic studies by Richard Thaler and Daniel Kahneman, people were shown to persist with failing projects, bad investments, or even doomed relationships simply because they already poured time or money into them. Sound familiar? It's the same logic that makes you stash your meta gear instead of risking it. Your brain says, I've spent hours grinding for this mall boss. If I lose it, all that effort was for nothing. But the truth is, those hours are already spent. Keeping your gear in the hideout doesn't protect your investment, it just prevents it from ever paying off. The value of a kit comes from using it, not saving it, especially since you lose it when the game wipes anyway. The scarcity mindset. The scarcity mindset makes you scared to use what you have for fear that you won't be able to get more, and it's one of the most powerful psychological effects in any survival-based game. In 2013, economists Senthil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir found that scarcity, whether real or imagined, changes the way people think. When you feel your resources are limited, your brain narrows its focus, and you tunnel in on short-term protection of resources and not long-term growth. During the early days of the pandemic, people hoarded toilet paper, cleaning supplies, and food, not because they needed it immediately, but their brains couldn't handle the uncertainty of being able to get more. In some games, this might look like saving semi-rare consumables that would help you in a fight, like potions or stims, or not using an ultimate ability because it takes time to recharge. In ExfilZone, you're less likely to use gear that you can't buy or you can't buy yet because it's rare to you, even though it could help you survive right now. It also happens for tradable items. You could have a box full of M993 and still think, I better not use my good ammo, I might need it later. The problem with scarcity mindset is it becomes a loop. You hoard gear, and you avoid using it, then you don't improve, then you keep feeling unprepared, and you hoard even more. The cycle continues until the game wipes and you lose it all anyway, or you finally decide to use it the day before wipe, and everyone else has the same high-tier gear and ammo, so it's no longer an advantage in the fight. Endowment effect. We assign more value to things simply because we own them. It was first demonstrated in 1990 by researchers Daniel Kahneman, Jack Netsch, and Richard Thaler. In their classic experiment, people given a good were reluctant to trade it for a good of another similar value simply because it was theirs. For example, participants first given a pen were generally unwilling to trade for a coffee mug of equal value, whilst participants first given the coffee mug were also unwilling to trade it for the pen. Once you own something, your brain inflates its worth. The endowment effect also feeds into other biases like loss aversion and the sunk cost fallacy. The more we feel something belongs to us, the more painful it becomes to risk it or let go of it, even when holding on makes no logical sense. In ExfilZone, the same thing happens, only faster. The moment you extract with a rare item or a gun, your mind rewires its value. It wasn't yours a minute ago, but now it feels different. It feels valuable. That attachment distorts your judgment, and you might avoid fights you could win, extract early, and hoard gear you'll never use, all to protect the feeling of ownership. Inequity aversion. Inequity aversion is the tendency to avoid situations where someone gains more than we do, even if avoiding that situation means hurting ourselves. Say you're offered $100, but another person gets $200. Or you get $50 and the other person gets $25. Which would you take? In famous experiments by Ernst Fair and Klaus Schmidt, many preferred to walk away with less rather than let the other person get too much. Humans don't just hate losing, we hate being the loser in the exchange. Same happens in ExfilZone all the time. You don't just hate losing your gear, you hate someone else winning your gear. Players will run naked or under-geared to deny other players from getting top-tier loot, even if they would perform better with the better gear. The idea of losing a mall boss to a naked or a corner camper or a duper paralyzes someone from bringing in their gear. That's inequity aversion in action. We'd rather burn value than feel less than someone else. And when we feel that way, you're not playing to win, you're playing to prevent others from winning. So now that we know what's going on in your head, what can you do about it? Well, the first strategy is cognitive reappraisal. In cognitive behavioral psychology, there's a tool called cognitive reappraisal, reframing an emotional event so it feels less painful and more meaningful. When you die, don't say, "I lost my gear." Try, "I bought a lesson." That shift matters. The emotional brain encodes the experience differently when it's framed as growth instead of failure. If you lost a fight, analyze it. What did you learn about positioning, audio, reaction time? You just paid for data, and data compounds faster than loot. Over time, this reframe converts frustration into resilience. Exposure therapy. The next strategy is exposure therapy. Therapists use exposure therapy to help people overcome anxiety. You face your fear gradually in controlled doses until the emotional reaction weakens. You can apply that same model in-game. Start by leveling up just one part of your kit each time you play. Maybe bring a better rig than you normally would, or a bigger bag, or a mag or two of better ammo. Then, commit to one no-fear raid, where you bring a full loadout, win or lose. Each repetition teaches your brain, "I can survive this feeling." Eventually, the panic of a high-risk loss fades into a normal challenge. Plus, you might surprise yourself with how you perform with better gear. An abundance mindset. One of the most powerful antidotes to gear fear is something psychologists call an abundance mindset, a way of thinking where you assume there will always be more opportunities, more resources, and more chances to grow. It's the opposite of scarcity and the opposite of hoarding. And in a game like ExfilZone, it can fundamentally change the way you play. Most players operate from a scarcity mindset without even realizing it. They treat every loadout like it's irreplaceable, they behave as every single death will set them back hours, and they ration good weapons like they're rare antiques. But here's the truth, ExfilZone is a game based on renewal. You earn again, you loot again, and you'll rebuild again. Your progression comes from cycles, not preservation. Bring that mall boss into raid knowing that if you lose it, you will find another one. Use that crazy SA-58 build with trust that you will find another. Remind yourself, if I lose this gear, I can get it back. And if I use this gear, I can get better. A utility mindset. Shift your mindset from ownership of gear to utility. Instead of thinking, "This is my gear," think, "This is a tool I'm taking in for a raid." Every weapon you bring is expendable, and every death is just the game reclaiming what was never truly yours. You might have heard players say, "It's not yours, it's just your turn." Gear is a tool that amplifies your experience. It exists to be used, not preserved. When you stop seeing your loadout as something you might lose and instead see it as something designed to empower your next few minutes of gameplay, gear fear loses its foundation. You lose stuff, you gain stuff, but the beauty of an extraction shooter is that neither state is permanent. Focus on process, not outcome. Players who focus on results, surviving, extracting, profit, experience more anxiety and less consistency than those who focus on processes like improving recoil control, comms, or map flow. This principle is backed by performance psychology research across sports and esports. So shift your goal from I need to survive this raid to I'm going to practice smart rotations and team calls. After each raid, regardless of outcome, review your decisions. If you took a smart risk, congratulate yourself, even if you died. If you played timidly and survived, note that, but don't celebrate it. This is operant conditioning, reinforcing the mindset you want to grow. Over time, your brain starts associating courage and learning with positive emotion and fear with stagnation. When you think about it, extraction shooters are a mirror. They reflect how you respond to pressure, to loss, and to risk. They test not just your reflexes, but your relationship with uncertainty. Gear fear really isn't about the gear. It's proof that your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do, and every death, every raid, every mistake is just part of the process of mastering yourself. So what about you? What's the gear you're most afraid to lose? Drop it in the comments. I want to know what you're hoarding and why.